Hi, I'm Neil Fadnes. I'm the Director of Developer Ecosystem at Aerospike. Today, we're going to talk about multi-site clusters. So this is the overview of today's session. First, we'll look at what a multi-site cluster is and what it implies. Who needs it, or what application it enables. Then we'll explore a few key areas, such as how a multi-site cluster recovers from various failures. And this is going to be the thrust of today's session. We'll also look at the performance characteristics as well as why it is cost effective. Then we'll look at a couple of customer deployment examples in the payment processing area. And at the end, we'll have some time left for Q&A. What is a multi-site cluster? A cluster is a set of server nodes, and a multi-site cluster is a cluster whose nodes span multiple sites. So this is not to be confused with the setting where you have multiple clusters coordinated with the XDR protocol. XDR is the protocol that synchronizes data across multiple clusters. There are two key differences. One is a multi-site cluster is a single cluster, whereas in the XDR setting, you have multiple clusters involved. Second difference is a multi-site cluster has updates that are synchronized across all its replicas or all its sites, whereas XDR allows loose synchronization of data across multiple clusters. So what is a site? A site definition is pretty broad. A site can be a rack in a data center, or it can be an availability zone in a public cloud. And you can have combinations of these. So you can have a cluster, a multi-site cluster with two racks in the same data center or two racks in different data centers. Or you can have sites in multiple availability zones in same region or multiple regions in a public cloud. Or even you can have a combination of private cloud and public cloud sites, etc. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in deployment of a multi-site cluster. Not only that, but it also enables greater reliability with heterogeneous environment where the failure modes can be independent of each other. Another important aspect is that the sites can be geographically separated. And this is a relatively new configuration that Aerospike announced just last year in the Aerospike 5.0 database 5.0 announcement. And it enables certain business use cases that we'll look at briefly later. So apart from the just the term multi-site cluster, what it conveys, there are certain things that are implied when you say an Aerospike multi-site cluster. And one of them is it is an active-active. What we mean by active-active is the same data is concurrently accessible from multiple sites. And the benefit there is availability. You can access the same data across multiple sites at the same time. Also implied is the cluster is configured in strongly consistent configuration. So Aerospike allows both AP mode and SC mode. AP stands for available during partition. When the cluster partitions, it values availability more than consistency, whereas the strong consistent mode is exactly reverse. Strong consistency is always preserved, even during partitioning. And a multi-site cluster implies strong consistency. And the benefit of strong consistency for certain applications is they need the guarantee that the data is consistent across all its replicas. Another very important aspect of multi-site cluster is the data distribution is rack aware. And in this context, rack is equivalent to a site. So whenever we say rack, we mean it can be equated to a site. And what rack-aware data distribution does is it tries to have one replica on each site. So if you have replication factor of less than number of sites, obviously you cannot have a replica per site. But when you have a replication factor equal to number of sites, it provides exactly one replica per site. And this is very important thing because it enables two key benefits, two key properties of multi-site cluster. One is fast read performance. Because now that you have all the data accessible, available on each site, the reads can be local. And that means they can be very fast as opposed to having to go to another site, which could be geographically distant. And that makes a lot of difference in terms of read performance. Another benefit it accrues is even if you have a site failure, you have one or more copies of entire data across other sites. So there will be other sites that have the data available. So availability during site failure is another benefit that is derived from rack-aware data distribution. Another property or another recommended property of a multi-site cluster is they are symmetric. The sites are symmetric. So what that means is that each site has same number of nodes with similar capabilities. And the benefit that comes out of this is the performance and recovery characteristics of the sites are similar, which is a desirable thing. So as you can see, multi-site cluster not only is multiple sites, it doesn't not only spans multiple sites, but it also implies a lot of these desirable properties. And we'll see what applications these properties enable.